The air in the grand corporate boardroom shimmered with the warm glow of chandeliers, their light dancing across polished marble floors. Soft music floated in the background as elegantly dressed guests laughed over glasses of champagne. At the far end, the CEO, tall, immaculately groomed, and radiating authority, was greeting donors when something caught his eye. Near the entrance, almost blending into the shadows, a man in worn, faded overalls was quietly pushing a mop, his head bowed, his movements deliberate and unhurried. The sight jarred against the evening's perfect image. The CEO's jaw tightened. With brisk, purposeful steps, he crossed the room, his shoes clicking sharply against the floor. The murmur of conversation began to hush as heads turned to watch. When he reached the man, his voice cut through the room like a blade. "You don't belong here." The words echoed off the walls, laced with authority and irritation. Conversation stopped entirely. All eyes fixed on the scene unfolding. The janitor froze, his hands tightening on the mop handle. Slowly, he lifted his gaze to meet the CEO's. There was no defiance in his eyes, only a quiet resolve, a calmness that seemed almost out of place in the tense air. In a voice barely louder than a whisper, yet carrying to every corner of the room, he said, "I'm here for my daughter." The simplicity of the statement seemed to hang in the air, stirring a ripple of curiosity and unease among the glittering crowd. The crowd's curiosity deepened as the CEO's sharp expression faltered for a brief second. He motioned for the janitor to step aside, away from the center of the room where eyes and whispers pressed in like a heavy fog. They stood near a side table draped in white linen, the distant clink of glasses resuming in hesitant bursts. Still guarded, the CEO's tone was firm. "Explain yourself. This is a private gala." His voice was quieter now, though the edge remained. The janitor's fingers fidgeted with the worn cuff of his sleeve before he spoke. "My daughter," he began, eyes drifting toward the stage where a line of students waited nervously, "was invited here tonight. She's about to receive a scholarship from your company. She's shy, doesn't like crowds much. I didn't want her to stand here alone." He paused, his voice catching slightly, but he held steady. "So I came. Not to disrupt. Just to be near. Just to watch her moment." The CEO glanced toward the stage, following the janitor's gaze. Among the students, a young girl in a simple dress clutched a folder to her chest, her eyes searching the crowd. When she spotted her father, a faint, relieved smile touched her lips. The CEO's eyes shifted back to the man before him. The irritation that had fueled his earlier outburst was slowly eroding, replaced by a flicker of something else, recognition, maybe even guilt. The room around them seemed quieter now, as if waiting for what would happen next. For a moment, the CEO stood still, his gaze locked on the janitor's weathered face. The man's words had stirred something buried deep in his memory. In his mind, the glittering hall dissolved, replaced by the dim light of a cramped factory floor from decades ago. He was a boy again, barely 17, nervously adjusting a borrowed suit as he prepared to walk across the stage to accept his first academic award. He remembered glancing toward the doorway and seeing his father, still in his grease-stained work clothes, standing outside because he didn't have a ticket. The old man had been leaning against the frame, half hidden, his tired eyes shining with pride as he watched from afar. The boy had wanted to run to him, to pull him inside, but before he could, the lights had dimmed, and the moment had passed. His father never said a word about it. He had just smiled, patted his son's shoulder when they met outside, and walked him home. The CEO blinked, the memory fading back into the warm glow of the gala. The janitor was still standing there, waiting patiently, saying nothing more. The CEO's polished confidence wavered. His eyes shifted again to the young girl on stage, and the parallel struck him with sudden clarity. It wasn't just a janitor standing before him, it was a father, doing exactly what his own father had done, showing up, quietly, simply, because love didn't need an invitation. The soft chime of a microphone echoed through the room as the evening's host prepared to announce the next award. The CEO, still caught in the pull of memory, straightened his suit and stepped forward with a sudden resolve. He took the microphone from the host, his deep voice carrying a new, unshakable warmth. "Before we continue," he began, scanning the room, "I want to share something important." The guests leaned in, sensing a shift in the air. His eyes found the janitor and then the young girl on stage. "We often measure worth by the clothes someone wears, the title they hold, or the circles they walk in. But true worth is about the heart." He beckoned to the janitor. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as the man hesitated, then slowly walked toward the stage. The CEO reached down, offering his hand to help him up the steps. When the janitor stood beside him, the CEO called the girl forward. She approached, her eyes wide with surprise. "This young lady came here tonight to receive a scholarship," the CEO announced, his voice steady. "But she deserves more. From this moment on, our company will sponsor her full education, every expense, every step, until she graduates." A gasp swept through the audience, followed by a swell of applause. The girl's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes brimming with tears. The janitor stood frozen, his lips trembling, unable to speak. The CEO simply placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent bridge of understanding passing between them. The gala had long since ended, the hum of conversation replaced by the quiet of the night. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the wet pavement, reflecting in small pools from an earlier rain. The janitor and his daughter walked toward their modest car, the scholarship certificate clutched tightly in her hands like a fragile treasure. Footsteps approached from behind. The CEO, now without the microphone or the eyes of the crowd, caught up to them. His voice was softer than it had been all night. "I wanted to say," he hesitated, searching for the right words. "Your father would be proud too." The janitor's breath caught, the simple sentence striking deep. He looked at the man before him, the same man who had publicly called him out just hours earlier, and saw not arrogance, but sincerity. "Thank you," he replied, his voice low but steady. The CEO extended his hand, and the janitor shook it firmly. For a brief moment, they stood there in the glow of the street lamp, two men from different worlds bound by a shared understanding of sacrifice and love. The daughter, still holding her certificate, glanced between them with a smile that was brighter than the city skyline. As they parted ways, the CEO watched them drive off, the taillights fading into the distance. Somewhere inside him, a long-closed door had quietly opened, a reminder that greatness is not built on wealth or titles, but on the simple, steadfast act of showing up for someone you love.